Amara sat at the restaurant table, her heart full of excitement. It was her birthday, and she had spent the whole week planning a small dinner with Toby, her boyfriend. She had even taken time to dress nicely. A soft pink dress, her favorite perfume, and the cake she had picked up on her way there. She imagined him smiling when he saw it, maybe even saying how proud he was of her for all the hard work she'd been doing at her job lately. But as the minutes turned into hours, her smile started to fade. The waiter came by twice to ask if she wanted to order. She kept saying, "He's on his way." Finally, Toby walked in loud, unsteady, smelling of alcohol. He wasn't alone. 3 of his friends followed him, laughing as they took seats at the table. Amara tried to smile, but her hands were shaking. "Toby," she said softly, "you're late. I was waiting." He looked at her with a smirk. "Waiting? For what? You act like some big CEO now. Always talking about your projects and ideas. You should relax. You're just an employee, Amara." His friends burst out laughing. The words hit her harder than a slap. She had always believed Toby was proud of her, but in that moment, she saw something cruel in his eyes. Jealousy maybe, or shame. "Toby, that's not fair," she whispered. "I've worked hard for everything I have." "Oh, listen to her," he mocked loudly, raising his glass. "To the birthday girl, the future boss lady who thinks she's better than everyone." More laughter. She stood up, her cheeks burning. "That's enough," she said, her voice trembling. He pushed her back slightly, his hand brushing the table. The cake toppled, falling onto the floor. The frosting splattered across her shoes. A waiter rushed over, but Toby only laughed louder. "Look at you," he sneered. "Even your cake couldn't stay up." The crowd around them chuckled. Some people looked away, embarrassed for her, but no one spoke. Amara felt her chest tighten. Tears filled her eyes. She had dreamed of a loving birthday, maybe a toast, maybe a hug, but this was something else. This was humiliation. She looked at Toby one last time, her heart breaking, then turned and walked out of the restaurant. The night air hit her face cold and sharp. She didn't even notice the tears running down her cheeks until she reached her car. Her hands shook as she opened the door, but her mind was strangely quiet. Somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered, "Love shouldn't feel like this." That night, sitting alone in her car with mascara streaks on her face and the smell of ruined cake still on her dress, Amara made a silent promise that she would never let anyone make her feel small again. Later, when she would look back, she'd realize that was the night everything changed. That was the night she lost what she thought was love, and began to find her worth. Amara met Toby 3 years ago at a friend's wedding. She remembered how charming he was, confident, funny, and full of dreams. He had listened to her talk about her goals in marketing, how she wanted to create campaigns that inspired people. Toby had smiled and said, "You'll get there, Amara. You're special. Don't ever stop dreaming." Back then, his words meant everything. No one had ever believed in her like that. She had grown up in a home where her parents worked hard, but rarely had time for her ideas. So when Toby encouraged her, she felt seen, like someone finally understood her fire. In the beginning, he was her biggest supporter. He would bring her lunch to work, help her stay up late when she was finishing reports, and celebrate her little wins. When she got a small promotion, he showed up with flowers and said, "See, I told you you're unstoppable." Amara thought she had found the man of her dreams, kind, caring, and proud of her. But slowly, things started to change. It began with small comments. When Amara mentioned an idea for a new marketing project, he would say, "Are you sure you can handle that?" Or, "You work too much, you should relax." At first she laughed it off, but soon his tone changed. He stopped celebrating her wins. When she talked about her work, he would roll his eyes and say things like, "You and your office drama," or "Why do you care so much? It's not your company." The man who once pushed her to dream big was now making her feel guilty for doing just that. Amara's job also became more stressful. Her boss, Mr. Bello, always ignored her ideas in meetings. Whenever she suggested a creative concept, he would say, "Let's stick to the usual." But a few weeks later, she would see her ideas used in company presentations, with his name on them. It hurt, but Amara stayed quiet. She told herself to be patient, that hard work would speak for itself. But the more she stayed silent, the more invisible she felt. At home, Toby didn't make things better. One evening, she came home excited. Toby, guess what? The client loved the idea I worked on, she said. He didn't even look up from his phone. That's nice, he said flatly. But you know, ideas aren't everything. Maybe you should focus on being more humble. People don't like women who act too proud. Amara froze. She wanted to argue, to tell him how much effort she had put into her job, but she didn't want to fight. So she just smiled weakly and said, "You're right." That became her habit, shrinking herself to keep the peace. She stopped talking about her work, stopped sharing her dreams. When she got home, she made herself smaller so Toby could feel bigger. The only person who still saw the real Amara was her best friend, Zainab. Zainab worked in a different company but understood her well. Whenever Amara felt low, she would go to Zainab's apartment. They would sit on the balcony with cups of tea, talking about everything. "Amara," Zainab said one evening, "you used to talk about starting your own agency. What happened to that?" Amara smiled sadly. "Life happened. Toby says it's not realistic right now. He thinks I should just focus on my job." Zainab frowned. "But you were the one who taught me to dream big. Where's that girl who believed she could change things?" Amara looked away. "Maybe she got tired," she whispered. Zainab reached for her hand. "No, she didn't get tired. She just forgot who she was." "Don't let anyone make you forget." Those words stayed with Amara for a long time. She wanted to believe them, but every day it got harder. At work, her boss continued to take credit for her creativity. At home, Toby's love turned into control. Small at first, then heavier. He started checking her phone, questioning who she texted. When she worked late, he accused her of putting work before love. Sometimes, Amara would sit in bed at night and wonder when everything had changed. How did the man who once called her his star become the one who made her feel so small? But even through the pain, she kept trying to please him. Cooking his favorite meals, laughing at his jokes, forgiving his coldness. She thought maybe if she loved him enough, he would go back to being the man she first met. Yet deep down, something in her was breaking. She began to realize that love shouldn't make her feel afraid. It shouldn't make her hide her light, just to make someone else comfortable. Zainab's voice echoed in her head every time she looked in the mirror. "Don't let anyone make you forget who you are." Amara didn't know it yet, but that reminder, quiet, stubborn, and gentle, would soon be the spark that changed her life forever. After the birthday humiliation, Amara didn't speak to anyone for days. She turned off her phone, stayed in her apartment, and cried until her eyes hurt. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the cake falling, the laughter, and Toby's cold face. She told herself it was just a bad night. Maybe he didn't mean to hurt her. Maybe he was drunk. She still loved him, or maybe she loved who he used to be. After 3 days, she finally picked up her phone and sent him a message. "Toby, can we talk?" He didn't reply until the next day. His message was short. "Sure." They met at a small cafe near his office. Amara came early, her heart pounding. When Toby arrived, he didn't look sorry. He sat down, ordered coffee, and looked at her like nothing had happened. "Toby," she started softly, "I just wanted to say I'm sorry for how things went that night. I didn't mean to upset you." He leaned back in his chair. "You embarrassed me, Amara," he said. She blinked in shock. "I embarrassed you? You yelled at me in front of everyone. You pushed me, Toby." He rolled his eyes. "You're overreacting again. You always make things bigger than they are. You shouldn't have talked back. You made me look bad." Her lips trembled. "So it's my fault?" He shrugged. "You always think you're the victim." That was the moment she realized. He wasn't sorry. He didn't see what he'd done wrong. To him, everything was still her fault. She left the cafe quietly, tears in her eyes. Something inside her cracked that day. The love she had fought so hard to protect started to fade. At work, things weren't any better. She tried to focus, tried to lose herself in her projects. One of her latest ideas, a creative campaign called Light Up Nigeria, had impressed her team. She had worked for weeks on it, staying late every night. One morning, she walked into a meeting room and froze. Her boss, Mr. Bello, was standing at the front, presenting her campaign, but without her name. The client's logo on the screen made her heart drop. It was Toby's company. She sat quietly in the corner, watching as her boss explained the same slogans, the same visuals, and even the same taglines she had created. He smiled proudly and said, "This was a team effort. and we believe it will be perfect for your company. Toby, sitting beside the client's representatives, nodded in agreement. He didn't even look at her. After the meeting ended, Amara followed her boss into his office. Sir, that was my concept. I sent you those drafts last week. He gave her a fake smile. Amara, everything here belongs to the company. You know that, but you didn't even mention my name. He sighed. You're young. Learn to be a team player. If you keep fighting over credit, you'll go nowhere. She stared at him, her heart pounding. You gave my work to Toby's company. Mr. Bello raised his eyebrows. You mean your boyfriend's company? Yes. They're paying us well. It's business. It hit her like a punch. Toby and her boss had worked together. The campaign she stayed up all night designing had been stolen. Not only had Toby taken her love and peace, now he had taken her ideas too. That evening, Amara sat at her desk long after everyone had left. The office lights were dim, and her hands were shaking. She looked around, the gray walls, the messy papers, the fake smile she had tolerated for years, and she felt something break inside her. She opened her laptop, typed a short resignation letter, and hit send. Then she stood up, packed her small bag, and walked out. No plan. No backup. Just a storm of pain and anger in her chest. As she stepped outside, the wind brushed her face, and she whispered to herself, he didn't just take my heart. He took my ideas. But he forgot. I was the idea. It was the first time she said something that made her feel powerful again. That night, for the first time in years, Amara didn't cry herself to sleep. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing for sure. She would never let anyone steal her light again. Amara hit rock bottom. Her savings were almost gone. Her rent was due, and she had no job. The days felt long and empty. She would wake up, stare at the ceiling, and wonder where everything had gone wrong. Her once bright life had turned into quiet sadness. She had lost Toby, lost her job, and most of all, she had lost herself. Some days, she didn't even have the strength to leave her bed. She would scroll through job sites for hours, sending out resumes and getting no replies. When her phone rang, she hoped it was good news, but it was usually her landlord reminding her about rent. One evening, Zainab came over and found her sitting on the couch, staring at an empty cup. Amara, you can't keep doing this, Zainab said gently. Amara sighed. What do you want me to do, Zainab? I've tried everything. No one wants to hire me. Zainab sat beside her. You're waiting for a company to see your worth, but you don't need their permission. You're talented, Amara. Start on your own. Freelance. Use your skills. Amara shook her head. Freelancing? Who will even trust me now? I will, Zainab said firmly. And others will too. You just need to start. That night, Amara thought about it. She remembered all the designs she had created at her old job, the ideas her boss had stolen. Those ideas had come from her mind, not from a company. She still had that creativity. Maybe Zainab was right. Maybe she just needed to believe in herself again. The next morning, Amara borrowed Zainab's old laptop and created a few sample projects. Logo designs, social media posts, small ad concepts. She shared them online with a short caption, creative marketing solutions for brands that want to shine. At first, no one responded. A week passed, then a small local fashion store messaged her. The owner wanted help promoting her new clothing line. Amara agreed, even though the pay was small. She spent nights perfecting every detail, from the colors to the slogan. When the campaign went live, it caught attention. People loved it. The shop's sales doubled in 2 weeks. The owner posted online, giving full credit to Amara. Suddenly, messages started coming in, small businesses asking if she could help them too. For the first time in months, Amara smiled without forcing it. She worked hard, staying up late with music playing in the background, designing and creating. With every new client, her confidence slowly returned. Then one day, she got a call from an unknown number. Amara, the voice said. She froze. It was Toby. What do you want? She asked quietly. He sighed dramatically. I just wanted to check on you. Heard you're doing some small freelance jobs now. That's cute. Amara clenched her jaw. It's not small, Toby. It's honest work. Relax, he said with a laugh. I'm just saying, maybe we can work together again. I could help you get real clients. You know how business works. You're not built for this alone. She hung up without another word. That call reminded her exactly who he was. Someone who wanted control, not connection. But his words stayed in her head. You're not built for this alone. A week later, life proved him wrong. An older man named Mr. Adeyemi reached out to her after seeing one of her campaigns online. He owned a group of small companies and was impressed by her work. You have vision, he told her during their first meeting. But you're too modest about it. Why are you hiding your talent? Amara smiled shyly. I just started small, sir. Mr. Adeyemi nodded. Small is how all great things begin. I started my company in a one-room office. You can build something too. Don't wait for someone to give you permission. Those words lit something inside her. With Mr. Adeyemi's advice and Zainab's support, Amara decided to start her own creative agency. She named it Lumos Creative, a name that meant light. At first, she worked from her small apartment. She used her dining table as a desk. Zainab helped with emails and client calls. It wasn't easy. Some clients refused to pay on time, some rejected her proposals, and some said she wasn't experienced enough. But Amara kept going. Every rejection hurt, but every small success healed her a little more. She learned to believe in herself again, even when the world didn't. Months passed, and Lumos Creative began to grow. She started getting bigger clients. Her designs appeared on billboards and social media pages. People began to notice her name. Then rumors started spreading. Some clients began asking strange questions. Didn't you used to work for Toby's company? One of them asked. We heard you stole some of his ideas. Amara froze. She knew immediately where those lies came from. Toby. He was jealous again, this time not of her dreams, but of her success. At first, she was furious. She wanted to expose him, tell everyone what he had done, how he had stolen her ideas, how he had humiliated her. But then, she remembered what Mr. Adeyemi once told her. When you shine, some people will throw shade. But don't waste your light proving them wrong. That night, as she sat at her desk finishing another project, she thought deeply. She had two choices. Fight him and lose her peace, or rise above him and protect her growth. She chose peace. Amara focused on her work. She built a small team. Zainab became her business partner, and they hired 2 young designers. Every day the office was filled with laughter, music, and creativity. Even when people whispered about her past, her work spoke louder. Lumos Creative was becoming known for its fresh ideas and honest heart. One evening, as Amara looked out the window of her tiny office, the city lights shining below, she whispered to herself, he took my heart, and he tried to take my ideas, but he can never take me. For the first time in a long while, she felt whole again. Not because she had everything, but because she had found herself. And in that quiet strength, Amara finally understood what Zainab had been saying all along. That light doesn't need permission to shine. It just needs courage. A few months later, a major company announced a marketing competition for a nationwide campaign. It was a big opportunity, the kind that could change everything for a small business like Lumos Creative. The winning agency would not only get a huge contract, but also national recognition. When Amara read the announcement, her heart beat fast. This was it, the chance she had been waiting for. She gathered her small team in their little office. We're entering, she said firmly. I know it's risky, but we've come too far to stay small forever. Zainab smiled, full of faith. Let's do it. Let's show them who we are. They worked day and night, brainstorming ideas. Amara wanted their campaign to have meaning, something that spoke about strength, growth, and hope. Then one night, as she looked at her notes, she remembered her birthday. The cake on the floor, the laughter, the shame. That broken cake had once symbolized her pain. But now she saw it differently. That night had destroyed her old self, but it had also started her rebirth. She whispered to herself, what if the campaign was about that? About rising again after being broken? The next morning, she presented her idea to her team. We'll call it Rise Again. The symbol will be a cake, not just any cake, but one that represents second chances, because sometimes, what breaks us can also remake us. Zainab nodded, eyes shining. That's powerful. It's your story, and it's everyone's story. They poured their hearts into the project. The design included images of people rebuilding their dreams after failure. A cracked cake made beautiful again. golden light shining through it. It was personal, emotional, and full of hope. A few days later, they submitted their proposal. Amara felt proud, no matter the outcome. Then, a week before the presentations, she received shocking news. Toby's firm had also entered the competition. Her stomach twisted. Out of all the agencies in the country, it had to be his. Still, she reminded herself, "You're not the same woman he broke. You've built your own name now." On the day of the presentation, Amara arrived at the company's headquarters early. The room was big, with a long table and a panel of executives sitting in front. She saw Toby across the room, wearing his usual confident smile. He noticed her and smirked. "Well, look who we have here," he said smoothly. "I didn't know small agencies were allowed to play with the big boys." Amara met his eyes calmly. "We're not here to play, Toby. We're here to win." He laughed and walked away, clearly not taking her seriously. Toby's team presented first. Their campaign was flashy, bright visuals, expensive effects, loud slogans. The board members nodded politely, but no one looked moved. Then it was Amara's turn. She took a deep breath, stood before the panel, and began her presentation. "Good afternoon," she said softly but firmly. "Our campaign is called Rise Again. It's about turning pain into purpose, about finding beauty in what once broke us." The screen behind her lit up with soft images. A cracked cake slowly being mended, gold filling the broken lines. People smiling through tears as they found new strength. "This cake," Amara continued, "represents resilience. It reminds us that sometimes, the things that fall apart can be rebuilt even stronger. We don't have to hide our scars. They're proof that we survived." The room was silent. Some of the board members leaned forward, clearly touched. Amara's voice didn't shake once. She spoke from her heart, and every word carried truth. When her presentation ended, the board applauded. One of them said, "That was beautiful, Miss Amara. Very original. Very human." Toby's expression changed. For the first time, he looked unsure. A few days later, Amara and her team were called back to the company's hall for the announcement. All the competing firms stood waiting. The representative stepped onto the stage and smiled. After careful consideration, he said, "The board has chosen a winner. The campaign that best represents hope, renewal, and creativity." Everyone held their breath. "The winner is Lumos Creative." Zainab screamed in joy. Amara stood frozen for a second, her heart racing. The room filled with applause. She turned slowly, and her eyes met Toby's. He stood there, silent, his pride gone. As the crowd clapped, a large cake was brought out as part of the celebration. It was white and gold, with Lumos Creative's logo beautifully designed on top. Amara couldn't help but smile. The cake, once a symbol of humiliation, was now a symbol of victory. She walked to the stage to receive the award. Cameras flashed. Reporters asked questions. But she wasn't thinking about fame or money. She was thinking about how far she had come. She glanced at Toby one last time. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The silence between them said it all. Amara smiled softly. There was no anger in her, only peace. She had finally taken back everything he tried to destroy, but she didn't do it through revenge. She did it through grace, hard work, and faith in herself. When she stood on that stage holding the trophy, she whispered to herself, "The same cake they laughed at became my victory symbol." The humiliation had turned into triumph. Not because she fought him, but because she rose above him. Amara had proved one powerful truth. Success is the best answer to disrespect. Amara is celebrated everywhere. News channels and blogs talk about her company, Lumos Creative. People love her campaign. They say it feels real, full of hope and courage. Her story goes viral online. Everyone wants to know how she rose after being humiliated. But Amara stays quiet. When reporters call, she politely says no. She doesn't want to talk about Toby or the pain he caused. That chapter is over. She doesn't need the world to know who hurt her. She wants them to see who she became. One afternoon, she sits with Mr. Adeyemi in his office. He smiles proudly. "You've built something powerful," he says. "Let me invest in Lumos Creative. Together, we can take it global." Amara smiles warmly. "Sir, you believed in me when no one did. I'll always be grateful. But this time, I want to do it myself." He nods, understanding. "Then make it shine brighter, my dear." With time, Lumo's creative grows fast. Amara hires young women with big dreams. Women who remind her of herself. Zainab, her loyal friend, becomes her official partner. They sit late at night in their new office, surrounded by papers, laughter, and the quiet sound of victory. Zainab teases her. Remember when we used to sit in your tiny apartment, planning this? Amara laughs. Now we're here. We did it. One evening, as Amara leaves the office, she sees Toby waiting near her car. For a moment she freezes. He looks smaller, defeated. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, he says quietly. I was wrong. About everything. Amara studies his face. She doesn't feel hate anymore, just peace. She smiles gently and says, you taught me what love isn't. And for that, I'm thankful. She gets into her car and drives away. The city lights blur past her window, reflecting the brightness inside her. That night, she sits by her window sipping tea. Her phone buzzes with messages, clients, congratulations, stories about her journey. She puts it aside and closes her eyes. She whispers to herself, strength isn't proving someone wrong. It's proving myself right. And for the first time in years, she feels free, not because the world finally saw her worth, but because she did. A year later, Amara stands in her beautiful office at Lumo's Creative HQ. The room is full of laughter, flowers, and balloons. Her team has surprised her with a birthday party. On the table sits a white cake, elegant and simple, with her company's golden logo on top. The same cake design that once changed her life. Everyone cheers as she walks toward it. Zainab hands her the knife, smiling. Make a wish, boss, someone says. Amara looks around. Her eyes shine with pride. A year ago, she was heartbroken and lost. Today, she is surrounded by people who believe in her. She takes a deep breath and smiles softly. Inside, her thoughts whisper. He once dragged me out of a restaurant, laughing at the girl who dreamed too loud. Today, I own the room. The crowd counts down. 3, 2, 1. She cuts the cake. Everyone claps and cheers. Music plays. Cameras flash. Amara laughs, wiping a small tear before it falls. But it isn't sadness anymore. It's peace. The kind that comes when you finally know your worth. She raises her slice of cake and says quietly, never let someone convince you you're too much. To the right people, you're exactly enough. The room fills with applause and joy. The camera lingers on her smiling face, confident, calm, and free. Fadaout. Ibastías. Sparkling Heart, thank you so much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed Amara's story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories. See you in the next one. Bye. Waving hand sparkles.